Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Yeah, thank you.
It's crazy that it's been 4 years.
Yeah.
So before, getting into the questions, I wanted to thank you, for giving me a chance 4 years ago when the blog was just starting up. I didn't know what I was doing, and you gave me an hour.
Cheerleader of Jersey City.
I
so
am.
I'm thankful you still are.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think you sharing the blog post and giving your stamp of approval and like the stuff that we do really legitimized the website and really helped people take us much more seriously. And I think that's at a point where it became like a much bigger thing, So I really appreciate like your support and your friendship.
That's really nice of you.
Yeah, throughout the years, and you come to our events and you show love, and it's really appreciated.
I appreciate you saying that.
So, but when we first sat down, you gave us the scoop that but a lot has happened in the last 4 years for me, for you.
Yeah.
And when we first sat down, you told us that you were moving in with your girlfriend, which the Jersey Journal was a little upset about.
Yeah.
By the way,
Right.
which
I
I was
remember that
really
too.
happy.
Yeah.
I got the scoop. You moved in with Jacqueline, who's now your wife and your baby mom, and she's I love her, and she's also probably the breadwinner of the family, right?
She is.
Which probably people don't know. She's awesome.
She is. She's a really, really good entrepreneur, and she's growing her clinics. Today, she actually closed on another clinic, so she's opening another one in Hoboken, and she has 2 more locations that she's probably opening the next year. So it's great.
How does it feel, being married to a successful boss lady?
It's great. I love it. I'm a big cheerleader for her, and I think that she is the breadwinner in the family. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I mean, my salary is public. It's $114,000.
Right.
And I'm by far not the highest paid, even Jersey City employee, which is good. I'm okay with that, obviously. But it's very expensive living here, obviously. And, she's built a really, really great business. And it's majority women that she employs. And, I think that she's getting into other things business-wise as well. So it's great.
She's great. She's killing it. She's killing it. So you're, a new dad. A lot has happened in the last 4 years. How does it feel to be a new dad?
Best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. The thing I look forward to every single day. I don't know how to describe it because I think a lot of people always said to me that, that I'm missing out on this portion of my life, and you always kind of like brush it off, right?
100%.
And you can't relate to it unless you experience it. But it really is just a special thing. Like every day is so different, and he's like the best thing ever that happened to me.
How old is he now?
So he's now 3 months, and every day is a little different, right? Smiling, grabbing things like for the first time, like yesterday. So it's it really is an amazing.
Like you get excited when they fart. You're like, oh, that's so cute. You're like, oh, they fart. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, who does he look like?
Hard to tell, but hopefully her, right? But like
I told you, I'm like, he's very handsome. Got her looks.
I think it's hard to tell now. I mean, he definitely. I mean, look, he doesn't have my eye color. Doesn't look like so hair color. So maybe more like her.
How does it feel, now that you're a dad and you're a mayor? How are you balancing? Because when we met, you were just moving in with her, and you were very focused on like your job, and now you have to balance, being a husband, being a dad, being the mayor of Jersey City.
Normally, let's say for the last 5 years, my day would start generally at about 7:15. I get picked up, and the first meeting was at 7:30, and then I would get home, depending on the day, between 8 to 10. That's like a normal day, and that's pretty much 7 days a week, right? So there was no like weekend where there was like a gap. Like a weekend that I would have nothing would be something that I'd have to plan like 2 months in advance. So where it's changed on my schedule is I'm starting the day a little bit later. So I'm like getting picked up closer to 9 now. So I get a little bit time in the morning. And where possible, I'm getting home a little bit earlier as well. Probably I'm trying to get home around 6:30, and then if I have something later, I'll go back out at 8, but at least to see him to go to bed. And like I'm trying to balance it. It's not perfect. And then we're splitting, we're sharing at night duties. So it's like, she gets up to pump, and I feed the baby, and that's pretty much it.
Diapers?
And I'm changing diapers. Probably she would say I should do it more, but I'm trying.
You do the best
I do the best I can.
It's the shitty part, right?
It is, literally, yes.
So before your son was born, you lost your brother unexpectedly. Can you tell us more about him and what happened, and how did this event change your perspective on life?
Oh, well, so let me say my brother was responsible for, so my older brother was 43 years old. I'm 42 now, I was 41 at the time. So we were close growing up and close as friends and close, obviously as brothers and just a close relationship. His job was, he was responsible for Hudson Yards, the real estate project, the biggest in the country that just opened across the river. His job was the primary fundraising for, to support the infrastructure to build that platform. I mean, when Steve Ross cut the ribbon 2 weeks ago, I mean, in the front of everybody, he gave a nice shout out to my brother and dedicated to my brother. So Dan spent a lot of time in Asia raising money. Some of that has changed in the last years or 2 years because of the rhetoric from Trump. It's been a little bit harder to raise money in China. So he started to spend more time with his team in Singapore and Vietnam and South Korea, etc. And so he was on a business trip in Vietnam. He felt chest pains or discomfort, walked into an emergency clinic. And then, he was aware enough that he texted doctors here kind of his vitals and what was happening. And he wasn't like in pain at that point. And they gave him nitroglycerin and he died maybe a minute or 2 minutes later. So it was kind of really tough. It put in perspective a lot of different things for me because, first of all, it was really, really hard to get him home, right? Because it's a third world country in many ways. It's no urgency to operate. So, and we had a lot of advantages. We had, Senator Menendez and Senator Booker and Schumer and Albio was great, all helping. It was still a big process. And Related hired a firm there to help. It was still a big process. So if somebody didn't have those relationships, I can't imagine how difficult it would be, which kind of opened my eyes to that a little bit. And then, you change your perspective on how short things can be regarding life, how fragile it is, right? Literally, I would talk to him 2 days earlier. I was talking to him about sneakers that I needed, right? And, 2 days later, he's not there, right? So it's been a real tough 6 months for us. Grieving is tough because, not only that immediacy of what happened, but seeing what it's done to my family and the strain and the voids and everything is like a first time. So first time Passover, first time birthday, first time doing something with the girls, his 2 little girls. So it's been really tough. It's been tough.
So that brings me to, we basically posted that we were interviewing you today, and we asked people to send us their questions. So we, first, before I get into that, in the State of the City address, you talked about the new city-run bus system. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
So we're going to have later this year an RFP out that is going to look to partner with some of the technology bus companies. There'll be Jersey City branded buses, but focused on the Heights in Greenville and West Side. So it's not really downtown centric. And the goal is to have better transportation for people from their respective neighborhoods to the path. And I think that there's a lot of technology providers that can solve that. We're also exploring kind of a bus line that's just kind of dedicated bus route. The trade-off, though, is you lose parking in that situation. Right. So you'd lose a whole lane of parking, which is an issue. So the community, in some regards, says we want the bus lane, we want the buses, and we want buses to move fast, right, but we don't want to lose the parking. Right. They don't work. Yeah. Similar to the other thing I said about investment and change. Right. Same thing with buses and parking as far as the rapid transit.
Right. I don't know how you do it, but anyway, bring me back to transportation. Taking the path has become a nightmare, right? I think we basically got 10 different people who were asking about taking the PATH train. Port Authority lays blame on Jersey City. Jersey City lays blame on Port Authority. What's being done to bridge the divide and come to some sort of meaningful solution, and how do we fix this problem?
So the Port Authority doesn't lay blame on Jersey City. They've never said that, okay? I think that we have laid blame on the Port Authority. I think that's an accurate statement. A couple of things to point out here. So first, when you talk about population in Jersey City, people talk about the population growth. It's important to point out that Jersey City is nowhere near our historical top population for the city. Nowhere near that. Really? We're growing still, and we're still below where we were historically in the 60s. Okay, so start as that is kind of like a starting point. That's a fact. And then you see a population decline, and now we're increasing now as well. The issue ultimately is that, from my standpoint, is that the Port Authority hasn't increased the number of trains, increased the number of cars, increased the frequency. Those are all big problems, and they haven't planned for where we are ultimately. When you think about kind of the health of a healthy city is growing. Cities want to grow. Any mayor will tell you that. And Jersey City is growing, which is a healthy sign. We've been able to keep taxes flat for 5-6 years. And the reason that we've been able to do that, despite the fact that costs go up every single year, is because we are growing. And that is a healthy thing for a city to do. It would be counterproductive for us to say we're not going to grow, we're not going to change because the Port Authority is unwilling to do their job and responsibility, which is transportation on this front. So our viewpoint is that we're going to continue to control what we're responsible for, which is grow healthy, think about infrastructure, do our best to advocate to the Port Authority that they need to change it, and hopefully they respond to the pressure. Now, they say that they are expanding the cars, 8 to 10 cars. They're buying additional cars. They're changing the signal system, all things that will increase throughput. But we're going to continue to stay on top of them. I just want to say one other thing on the transportation. Jersey City is fairly unique of a city its size that we have no control over our mass transit system. We don't control the bus system. We don't control the ferry system. We don't control the light rail system. We don't control the path system. It is a real challenge for us. So...
But you're the mayor. They want to be like, you.
I appreciate that. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of components to the problem, and we think about them constantly, but it's more of a problem than just saying, hey, yes or don't build, and who's to blame.
So, we talked a little bit about, gentrification. Somebody wrote in, what are your thoughts on gentrification with the increase of developments, more people moving in, rising costs, natives feeling like they're being pushed out, people are angry. What are your thoughts on this matter?
So I touched a little bit on gentrification. I mean, we're doing our best to create as much affordable housing as possible. Costs are going up in cities all across the country. The reality is that the best way to control costs is creating more housing, because the more housing you have, you can create more supply, which ultimately will drive down costs. So, unfortunately or fortunately, we're tied to the New York City market. As New York City market increases in prices, Jersey City is going to increase in prices unless you create enough supply that you could obviously offset that. We're also doing set-asides for affordable housing, veteran housing, senior housing. We're building more than any municipality in the state of New Jersey, so we're doing our best on that front.
So let's talk about the Time Out New York article. Yeah. So a lot of people were kind of like annoyed at it, I mean, I was a little annoyed, like, now we're cool. Like, oh, really? Now we're cool. You know what I mean? How do you feel about it?
Well, let me say this. I think it's a couple of things, right? Let me start by saying that it is a good thing that they highlighted Jersey City. Secondly, let me say that it is a good thing that the leadership of Time Out New York, Time Out, actually all of them across the country, chooses to live in Jersey City. So he chooses to highlight it. So that's another good thing as well.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
really?
100%. It is a good thing that he knows that it's not a news story that all of a sudden Jersey City has arrived. I mean, so people criticize Time Out for covering this. And again, people only know part of the story, whereas the leadership for Time Out chooses to live in Jersey City, right? It's like something that it's like Johnny come lately. They're actually a part of it. They're buying into what they're saying. The fact that they're promoting Jersey City, it's a good thing. Right. I don't know why anybody would be mad about that.
Yeah. How does it feel, like all this pressure on you? How do you deal with it?
Pressure from the jobs?
Yeah, from the job, yeah.
The pressure, I feel, is more on the bigger things and the disappointment and frustration around when a big fire happens and a family loses their home, or a shooting, or some of the homeless stuff. Those are the bigger things that kind of get to me, and that wears on you a little bit.
What's next for you? Career-wise?
Career-wise. So I'll run for re-election in 2021, and then from there I'll figure it out. At that point I'll be 44. So we'll see where it goes from there.
You don't have any 10-year goals?
You know, I, if you go back 4 years ago, I obviously thought about running for governor, and then I chose not to run for governor for a variety of reasons. And maybe I'd take a look at that again. Maybe I wouldn't. Like, this job is really a great job because you can try a lot of different things. The city is like a very dynamic city, a lot of different communities. You could experiment. It's a laboratory for change. It's a big enough city that it's an address, and small enough city that you could actually see results. And the great thing is, like, I don't have to drive anywhere. Like, I'm in the city the whole day, close to people I want to be close to. So it's not like there's an urgency to leave. If you think about politics and jobs, if you had the choice to be for me, if I had a choice to be a House of Representative member or the mayor of Jersey City, this job is much better.
Right. What's your favorite thing about being the mayor of Jersey City?
I mean, you could actually do things and change things. Like, you could build a park, you could build housing, you could actually see communities change. There's no other job in public service that you can do that.
It must be very satisfying.
It's great. I love it.
Enough with the serious questions. Yeah. I want to do a rapid fire. I'm going to ask you a question, and it's icebreakers, and the first thing that comes into your head. Okay.
Okay.
Ready? Okay. Favorite movie of all time?
Forrest Gump.
What do you do first thing in the morning?
Brush my teeth.
What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Coffee.
Last thing you do at night before going to bed?
I guess watch TV.
Next vacation you want to go on?
Oh my God, I'm not going on vacation anytime soon. I don't know, somewhere warm.
Where would you like to go?
Somewhere warm with a beach.
What is your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show, probably Handmaid's Tales right now. I mean, look, I've watched every single Bachelor, right? I mean, I told you this before.
Yeah,
I've watched every single one. And my wife will watch them later in the season, just to digress. Like, she gets bored at the beginning part. I like the beginning part as well. Right. But probably Handmaid's Tale right now.
What is your favorite junk food?
Oh, favorite junk food. I don't know. I mean, it goes in waves. Like, what am I buying now? A lot of I've been going to Bang cookies.
Oh my God, they're so good.
So good, so good, so good. That cinnamon whiskey cookie is the best.
So good. What's your favorite Jersey City hangout spot right now? Favorite restaurant or bar?
Favorite restaurant is the Latham House, and favorite bar is probably the Archer.
Cool. So that's all for my questions. So I mentioned in the email that I wanted to like turn the tables and have you interview me because you're pretty. Yeah. I see you interviewing business owners and you're like really good at it. And I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if you could be a blogger. So, so are we ready? You ready? Okay. My turn.
Well, first, how's your life changed in the last 4 or 5 years?
Crazy. Well, I left my corporate job. I became a full-time blogger for Chick PJC. I started, other businesses, throwing events. I love it. I'm really happy. I've kind of found my purpose, but it's definitely much different than how my life was before.
Do you want to talk about your personal life a little bit?
You can ask
Are you going through your divorce?
Just got divorced in November.
How long were you married for?
I was married for 10 years. 10 years. Well, we were together for 10 years. We were married for 7.5.
Married for 7.5. And what's now that you've gone through the whole divorce and marriage experience, any thoughts that you want to share?
I think, I was very young when we met, and I had, this plan to life, and it was like, get a degree, meet a nice Jewish man, get a successful job, get married, have kids. And I don't think life needs to go like that. And I think there was a lot of things that I was just going based on what society expected of me, whereas if I would have followed like my heart, things would have been different. But you know what? I have no regrets. Everything happens for a reason. I have my daughter, she's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And if my life didn't go the way it has, I wouldn't have ended up in Jersey City. I would have maybe still been in Montreal or in Israel. So I think everything happens for a reason. Now I know what I'm looking for in a relationship and what I not looking for, and it's definitely shaped, who I am.
All right. And so what's next for Chickpea JC?
It's funny. People ask me that all the time, and I have no idea. Like
Do you want to expand outside of Jersey City or no?
outside, I've been writing a little bit about Asbury because it's getting warm, and people love Asbury going down the shore, and there's a lot of similarities I find from Asbury to Jersey City. Art and music and culture and good food. So I'm gonna go a little bit there, but my heart is in Jersey City. I think there's a lot of opportunity here, a lot of things that aren't being written about. I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface, to be honest. And every day it's my life. There's no end goal in this. It's just continuing, doing this and writing about the things that I enjoy and bringing people together, raising awareness. The other day I was grocery shopping, and this guy came up to me and he's like, hey, me and my girl love your blog. We religiously read your top things to do this, on the weekends. And we just moved here 6 months ago. And to me, that's amazing. They just moved here 6 months ago, but they're engaging locally. Instead of spending their dollars across the river, they're looking, and what we post on Top Things to Do are all community stuff. Local galleries, food tastings, and it's all over Jersey City, not just downtown. So the fact that they're religiously reading that weekly post is great, so.
I think that nightlife thing is a newer thing. It's lasted over 5
Right.
years. It didn't exist 10, 15 years
It's
ago.
crazy.
It wasn't, of course nightlife existed, but not to the same degree. You wouldn't, look, people have a lot of options here where they don't need to go across the river.
Right.
That didn't exist 10 years ago.
The
5
food
years
scene is amazing. We handle social media accounts for about 15 restaurants, and the food is incredible. We get to eat amazing food, and I don't feel like I have the need to go into New York City. I force myself because you end up in this bubble when you're here, and you're always seeing the same people.